Today, a California carrier just folded. 116 people told to go home. Another red flag in a freight economy that our leaders keep insisting is fine. The company is called Epic Lighting Fast Service, based in San Diego, and according to reports, they filed a warrant notice in California on September 1st and will shutter by October 31st. That's not a rumor. It's in black and white. If you've been paying attention, these closures are not isolated. They're patterned. Epic operated out of 5670 Kearney Mesa Road, ran 59 power units, had 93 drivers, and even fielded Amazon-branded vehicles, a classic delivery service provider model that's supposed to be resilient. So why is a supposedly resilient model getting crushed? Because the underlying market has been weak for far too long, and the cost structure, especially in California, has become unforgiving. Let's start with price signals. Analysts have said outright that truckload rates are stuck, and that's after a multi-year washout that pushed plenty of small and mid-sized carriers to the brink. When the price you're paid to move freight flatlines, while your inputs, labor, insurance, compliance, equipment, maintenance keep marching up, you can optimize your spreadsheets all day and still bleed out. That's not mismanagement. That's math. California magnifies that math. The regulatory stack employment classification fights aggressive emissions timelines. Local enforcement culture adds fixed costs that are predictable on paper and brutal in practice. You don't have to love or hate those rules to recognize their effect. They narrow margins in an already margin-starved segment. Even California-friendly forums acknowledge the pressure. The debate, the debate isn't whether it exists, it's whether it's overblown. Tell that to the 116 people who just lost their jobs. Now, here's where it gets even messier. Industry folks are questioning whether Epic Lighting Fast Service was ever a robust carrier in the traditional sense, pointing to oddities in public data like inspections and asset listings. Maybe you think that's nitpicking? I don't. In an era where brokers and shippers are drowning in paperwork theater, when a carrier footprint looks strange on paper, it raises a harder question. Have we built a compliance regime that incentivizes looking legitimate instead of being resilient? The answer matters for safety and for who survives next downturn. Look at the official breadcrumbs. Epic is tied to 59 units, 93 drivers, and active authority this year. That's what the public-facing data say. But some records also show the kind of administrative flags you'd expect when companies are stretched thin, like outdated mileage reports that basically read 1 mile. That's not an operational story. That's a system story. When the public datasets can cleanly describe who's healthy and who's hollowed out, everyone downstream, brokers, insurers, and shippers, flies partly blind. And don't miss the macro. The freight economy is wobbling under three forces that politicians barely acknowledge. Demand that has not returned to pre-pandemic trend. Tariff whiplash that distorts flows. And a capacity base still digesting too many trucks ordering in the sugar high years. Analysts have been warning that any 2025 recovery would be tepid and uneven, with contract rates creeping up a couple percent at best while spot stays volatile. That's not a renaissance. That's a dead cat bounce in a highly capital-intensive business. Meanwhile, on the ground, the workforce cuts are not just at carriers. Federal agencies are slated to lose a notable chunk of staff this fiscal year as part of broader downsizing. If you think fewer regulators and auditors in a stressed market equals a safer, saner industry, you have not watched trucking long enough. Less capacity for oversight plus more financial pressure is not a formula for stability. It's an invitation to corner cutting and bigger eventual reckoning. So, back to California and Epic. A warning letter is not an opinion piece. It is a legal notice. We are closing. Here are the layoffs. Here's the date. This wasn't some obscure flatbed out in the desert. This was a delivery-centric operation in one of the wealthiest metros in the country, riding the e-commerce wave, and it still could not make the numbers work. When the future of logistics can survive in the capital of the future, you should probably ask tougher questions about the future we were sold. Forums are full of drivers saying the quiet part out loud. The margins don't support the promises. Appointment windows get tighter while detention goes unpaid. Insurance renewals jump 5 figures for fleets with spotless records. Net income that once penciled at $100,000 for an owner-operator now limps across the finish line at $60,000 if the truck does not eat a turbo. None of that makes headlines. The warrant notice does, because warrant notices are the receipts you can't hand wave away. There's another political layer people dodge. California's rules don't exist in a vacuum. They collide with federal policy and global trade in real time. Tariff schedules change, cargo gets front-loaded, ports swing from feast to famine. That's tolerable when capital is cheap and rates are forgiving. It's lethal when you're levered on near-zero margins. We also need to talk about the credibility crisis in trucking data. When all well-circulated forum thread points to 59 trucks, 0 inspections, the immediate instinct is to dunk on the poster. But it's the wrong response. The right response is, why can a carrier of that listed size leave such a thin footprint in public safety records? Is it a data lag, fragmented subcontracting, paper entities inside a DSP ecosystem? If policymakers want safer roads and healthier industry, they should start by making operational footprints transparent and timely. No more scavenger hunts across government portals and third-party scrapers to figure out who's actually hauling your freight. And yes, Amazon should answer for this too. When your brand sits on the side of the vans, when your engineer and network debt externalizes volatility to partners, you don't get to vanish when a partner collapses. Independent contractor and delivery service provider are legal phrases. They're also moral shields. A durable network shares upside and cushions downside. A brittle one turns partners into fuses. Which one does look like right now? What happens next? The optimistic take says capacity exits like Epics tighten the market, raise rates, and stabilize what's left. Sure, eventually, the bearish take says there is still too much iron chasing too little freight, consumers are still skittish, and OEM order books rolling over suggests carriers are hunkering down, not getting up. Both can be true in different lanes at different times. The only certainty is the human cost. In the meantime, dispatchers, dock staff, drivers, people, not line items, who will spend the holiday filling out unemployment forms because the soft landing crushed their job. So, policy people will say, that's the market. That's how it's working. Okay, then do your job and make the market legible. Publish the data so brokers can vet carriers without a paid subscription to 5 databases. Enforce rules evenly so good actors are not subsidizing the bad. Stop pretending that layering ambitious climate targets, complex employment mandates, and chaotic tariff policy on a low-margin logistics sector won't produce casualties. You want California to lead? Great. Lead by making compliance predictable, timelines realistic, and data visible. To the folks in the cab and the office, document everything. Redefine print on every DSP agreement. If your revenue per mile can't clear fuel, insurance, and a realistic maintenance reserve, including one big catastrophic failure, you're not investing in growth. You're borrowing time. If your state adds costs, price for them and refuse the lanes. And if your carrier profile looks weird in public data, fix it, because in this climate, the optics can kill you before the market does. And to the media class that treats trucking as background noise until a bridge collapses or a viral crash clip surfaces, this story is the economy. Every closure like Epic Lighting Fast Service is a reminder that American consumer miracle still runs on diesel, rubber, and human endurance. And you can only grind those inputs so long before something breaks. In San Diego, it just did. Again. Don't forget this video, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. Your support lets me keep bringing you more content just like this. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.